Welcome back to Wake Up America. Now, the NDAA defense bill passing this week and includes over $300 million in aid to Ukraine, despite efforts by some Republican lawmakers to curtail aid to the war. Joining us now to break it all down is retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt and Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Gentlemen, good to see you again. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Good morning.
General, I'll come to you first. The Ukraine funding was opposed by some, but many Republicans voted against the efforts to curtail aid. Should we be providing more military aid to Ukraine, in your opinion?
What we should provide first is a strategy. And I think where the pushback is not in helping the Ukrainian people defend themselves, but it's in understanding the puts and the takes. And what are we trying to get to outcome-wise? We see us throw weapons at this. We are told that our own stocks are being depleted, and yet we see no plausible diplomatic outcome. We don't even see the overture of one. So I completely understand the hesitation to just write checks. And let's be very clear. None of the money that's gone so far has been audited. It hasn't been checked on. There hasn't been any corruption looks, none of it. And people are curious, and they deserve to be curious, especially against the economic backdrop that we see in our own country right now.
Yeah. Colonel, why is there such a strong vocal minority against aiding Ukraine?
That's a good question. And Michael, first off, Blaine and I are disappointed that we're not your favorite contributors, just saying.
Yeah.
Almost went back to bed.
Gentlemen, you're my favorite contributors.
I'll tell you what, you could come up in the ranks if you come into studio, so we can discuss it.
I'm working on that. That's right. So, no, the reason is because, as Blaine just said, we are spending tremendous amounts of money, not only on military aid, Michael. We've given their civil service, we've funded their government, we're doing a range of things beyond military support. We've erased debt. These are all things which impact on us. And you know, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, but think about what good, $15–20 billion would do to take people off the streets or give that to veterans. There's a range of things that I think people recognize within the current Republican Party that says, hey, this is great that we're helping a country. The Bucharest Agreement, I believe it was, 94, obligated us to support Ukraine should they be, invaded because they gave up their nukes. I get it. Mm-hmm. But again, things are being very badly managed with no real end in sight because we lack a strategy.
No, all fair points that I can't disagree with. General, $300 million is, without a doubt, it's a huge number. But what does that actually look like on the ground? How is it, being used?
Yeah, $300 million. I mean, think about every 3 weeks or so, we're announcing another $500 million here, another $300 million there. We've got authorized in this thing well over $110 billion. And again, just everybody supports innocent lives being slaughtered in Ukraine. Our hearts are with them. Our resources are with them. But what we don't see is, where is this going? How does this end? What are we going to achieve with this money? Because so far we haven't achieved anything. And we have a stalemate, and we have a body count going up, and we have to enable the Ukrainians to get to some table and leverage point to get done with this. And it's good for the world, because this is against the backdrop where World War III could break out in Europe. It could break out in the Middle East. Watch what's going on there. It could break out in Asia. And we better have a strong military and be prepared for that. Wait a minute. Our own southern border is being invaded. We have a war right here at home.
Yeah, I do
Great
think.
points.
Yeah. I don't know if we can say that it hasn't really achieved anything, though, because what do you think would happen if that aid hadn't been provided?
Sarah, those are great points. Those are great points. And honestly, I'm a little bit off base on nothing's been achieved. But what could have been achieved? What could have been achieved is a better way to say this. Yeah. At the outset of the war, had we given an arms package that wasn't incrementalized, that had a strategy behind it, you wouldn't see one Russian in Ukraine right now. Had they had close air support on the ground, those are just military facts. Those are military truths. And instead, what we got was a lot of politics, and what we got was incrementalism, the kind of which we saw in Vietnam when we had this thing called graduated response. So thanks for the correction.
Yeah, and Colonel, just before we let you both go, a lot has been made about the cluster munitions that have been sent over. Just talk to us about the long-lasting effects of these type of weapons and why they're considered so dangerous.
Sarah, yeah, to speak to what Blaine said, there's no strategy, and this is just another example of a lack of strategy and desperation. Cluster munitions do not do significant work to provide military capability to stop an enemy. These things become a hazard to both sides. As I mentioned before in the show, when in Afghanistan, I was running a military convoy with the FBI. The vehicle, a Toyota 4x4, had to pull over to the side of the road. We had to set up security around to change the tire. Sarah, I walked in front of that vehicle to set up security point. There was one of our unexploded munitions, one of these cluster bombs from the initial entry in 2001, and I was there in 2003, that had not exploded. We would have lost 4 FBI agents, had they just gone 5 more feet. So I'm just saying that from personal experience, these things aren't the thing you need to win a war. You need strategy, you need leadership, and you need the ability to actually think on the fly and adapt. And so far, Sarah, we're not seeing that, and the cluster munitions ain't going to make up for any of that.
Yeah.
Another pair of our favorite contributors here. Thank you,
My
guys.
favorite contributor.
General
We
Holt,
delivered.
Colonel Shaffer, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.